Hello and welcome back, my Haven family, for another special event video. We are here to celebrate the much anticipated Lost Island DLC. For any viewer checking this out, Lost Island is a free DLC just like Ragnarok, Valguero, and Crystal Isles. Honestly, I think Lost Island is a beautiful map, and it's enormous. It's like an Island 2.0 or Ragnarok 2.0. I still think Crystal Isles is the most beautiful map, but this is great all around, especially for clusters with larger populations. Now, we have a ton of content to cover this time. I'll be discussing all three new creatures, the Dinopithecus, the Amargasaurus, and the Sinomacrops. So let's dive in. Dinopithecus. These bright bottom baboons can be found in the redwood biome. You'll find an alpha surrounded by a pack of betas. They have a new unique taming method. Now, before we tame, let's talk prep. You're going to need a high-tier shotgun, a low-tier shotgun, ammo, and preferably exceptional kibble. Find your alpha Dinopithecus, which you can tell by the glowing red aura. Start killing the betas to show the alpha your dominance. Make sure to avoid hitting the alpha with your high-tier shotgun. Now, you may notice above the alpha's head in gray is a number. This is how many betas you still have to kill to continue the taming process. Now, once the betas are killed, pull out that low tier shotty and get the alpha below 85% health. That's why we're not using a high tier shotty, because you're probably going to kill it. Once below 85%, it turns passive, and you can passive feed it just like any other passive tame. Rinse and repeat until tamed. Alright, now that we can ride it, what are the controls? So on your Xbox, right trigger is going to be your standard attack. This has decent DPS. Now right stick is a small AoE ground pound. I was actually pretty surprised by this. It has a much wider AoE than to be expected. And when I compared the damage numbers, this is actually higher DPS than the standard right trigger attack. So I would go for that. Now, next, we have A. This creature has a jump. It also can climb walls. Now, I'm not going to lie, compared to other creatures, its wall climbing is kind of shite. It's not very great. It's kind of finicky. I mean, this is Ark. What are you going to expect? Now, next we're going to talk about projectiles. Now, for the projectile attacks, you can hold RB and you'll bring up a radial menu here. So this creature can use 3 different types of projectiles: poop, grenades, and infested grenades. Let's go over each of these, starting with poop. So you can hold left trigger to aim, and then you'll click right trigger to throw. Now, poop is very similar to what the little monkeys can do in this game. Poop is going to basically create a poison damage over time, and it inflicts a little bit of torpor damage on the creature. And in addition to that, it slows them. So this is kind of a good way to get your target kind of softened up a bit. The next projectile is going to be grenades. Now, grenades are just like what they say. I have noticed that for the most part, the range on these grenades is similar to as if you're a human, but I could throw it just a little bit further than doing it myself. Now, lastly, we have something new, the infested grenades. So if you have poop in the inventory and you have grenades in its inventory, it can throw a infested grenade. It's basically a poop version of this grenade. It's going to throw it just like a normal grenade, but what it does that's a little different, it applies both debuffs. So you're going to get the poop debuff, you're going to get the damage from the grenade itself, and a new thing happens. When enemies are wearing tech armor, it disables the tech. Now, this does not work on tech turrets. So as far as like defending your base, you don't really have to worry about that. But if you happen to be wearing tech gear, this is something that they could do to you to dampen your effectiveness. Lastly, it has a pack attack. Now, if you have a group of tamed Dinopithecus and are riding the alpha, you can incite them to jump on a target and inflict a one-time bleed attack. So what you're going to want to do is hold left bumper. You can see how my reticule has become red here. It's yellow if it's not on a target. Let go of left trigger, and you'll see an icon go. They'll jump up on that target. They are starting to cause bleed damage, and then they'll begin to attack it until it's dead. Now keep in mind, this bleed effect can only be applied once per target, so I don't see this being particularly useful against bosses. Some closing thoughts and pro tips on these guys. First off, the pack does not get the pack bonus. This kind of seems a little odd to me considering Dinopithecus do, but whatever. Second, it does not have a turret mode for base defense. I kind of think that's a missed opportunity. I think that would have been pretty useful against tech armor attackers. Third, while it cannot wear a saddle for armor, it can wear just about any helmet in the game. So craft up a max tier riot or flak for insane damage resistance. That'll make it even better than a saddle. Fourth, this guy will make for a pretty good caver due to its wall climbing. It has pretty good damage output and tankiness, especially when wearing a high tier helmet. Lastly, for PvE players, breeders will really enjoy the many color regions. So you can get some really hilarious color combos onto its hiney. Overall, I think the baboons feel fun. They're not the best, but they're pretty nice. Next up, we have the Amargasaurus. Found in the snow and volcano biome, it has another new taming method, but this one's a bit trickier. For prep, you're going to need a lot of stuff for this guy. Callian soup or free curry, doesn't make a difference, whichever you prefer. Veggie cakes, exceptional kibble, a strong dino of your choice, and some stone structures to trap it. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Now, my method will get you 100% taming efficiency, but you're gonna need a two-man team to do it. Alright, find your prey, drink your soup, and approach the Amargasaurus. Normally, these guys are gonna be very aggressive, but when you drink the soup, they become passive. You need to walk up to them and hit Y on their body. This is going to sync your body temperature with the tame. Now that your temperature is synced with it, it becomes passive. And it's going to start following you around, and the taming process has now begun. So normally what's going to happen here, the Amargasaurus is going to try to attack any naturally aggressive predators to show you that it is worthy of being your tame. For my method, what you should do is take this guy over to a trap and trap him inside of it. This is going to be the easiest way to get yourself 100% taming efficiency. The first player must stay with the Amar. If you get too far away, you lose all taming percentage and have to start over. Also, try not to let your suit buff run out, because as soon as it goes out, it's going to become aggressive to you. So when it's getting close to 0, like, be ready to click it the second you can, so it does not turn aggressive on you. Now, a trick with this, if this dino's health drops below 85%, then it rapidly decreases its taming efficiency. So that's why I recommend trapping it, something like this, as a two-man team. That way you guys are going to get your 100% efficiency. While the first player is standing by the Amar, the second player needs to start herding aggressive predators back. The higher the level, the faster the taming bar goes up. So I'm going to go and get these dire wolves over here, and I'm going to herd them back to the Amar. Now you need to actually kill these guys right next to the pen, or the Amar will not get any of the taming from this. The Amar does not need to do any damage whatsoever as long as you kill it right next to it. Keep killing predators, as I detailed, until a prompt comes up on the Amar. It's going to ask you for some taming food. Hit Y to feed it, and that will continue the taming process. Continue to kill predators near it, rinse and repeat until tamed. Something I forgot to mention was the sweet veggie cakes. So in case this dino takes damage, sometimes instead of asking for the kibble, it'll prompt you to give it a sweet veggie cake. With my method, that shouldn't happen, but just in case, this is why you need to have sweet veggie cakes. If you don't give it to it, you cannot continue the taming process, so you need to have it on hand just in case. Now that we have this big bad boy, let's talk controls. So again, we're going to be talking about Xbox controls. Let's go out to a target here. Right trigger, this is going to be your standard attack. Pretty good damage. Now, you can hit right stick. It actually does do a very small AoE damage. This is to switch ammo type. So from ice to fire to armor pen, which you can see down here in the bottom left of my screen. It's switching right there. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about each of these ammo types as well. So if you hold left trigger, this will put you in aim mode. And you can hit right trigger to attack. So let's start with ice. So you can see there, it shoots a horn off at them. You can see your ammo in the bottom left. It shows I have 19 spikes left. These do regenerate at a pretty steady rate. So the ice is initially very small damage, and it creates a slow effect. So targets in this area, they are slowed, and if they stay in it long enough, it'll actually freeze them in place. Now, the next one is fire. So when we go to fire mode here, this one is going to create damage and a damage over time effect. Actually, let's find us a target over here because they're not working on the test dummy. There we go. You can see it's still doing a damage over time on it. Kill this guy here. Now the last one is going to be armor pen. Now, I do not have a PvP server set up at the moment to test this out. I'd like to give you guys better information on this once I've tested it thoroughly. However, my understanding from some sources that I trust is that on PvP, this negates saddle and armor quality. So it's the same thing, you just aim and shoot. So if an enemy were to be in this area, their saddle quality or their armor quality is completely negated. So that's incredible. Yeah, it's a small area. However, you know, if you were doing a team raid, you could just put down a whole bunch of these spikes in an area and really turn the tides against an enemy. It doesn't really matter how good of quality of gear that they have. This would be very, very effective. Now, something to note too, which is kind of neat about these spikes, you as the player can come up to these, you can remove the spikes. Enemies can actually damage this, so can wild dinos, but they do have pretty decent health. You can actually see that degrading right there over time. You can throw another spike onto the same spot to renew the effect as well. Some closing thoughts and pro tips on these guys. So first off, you can actually go here into its menu and you can enable turret mode on these guys right down here. So this would be great for PvP, but also even PvE. for killing wild dinos that could make it to your wall. Second off, I personally feel that Spike's projectiles are very weak at the moment. Hopefully they get buffed. The damage output just is really poor. 3, this dino is a lot faster than you would think for its size, and its turn radius is actually not too bad for the size too. A Diplo and a Bronto's turn radius is much, much worse than this guy. Also, the Amargasaurus swims pretty fast. So overall, I think that the Amargasaurus is a really great jack-of-all-trades dino. It has high weight for transport. It does good damage. It's a great farmer for thatch and berries, and it's a good defender and attacker for PvP. One last thing I just thought to show you. If you hit the A button, you can actually switch your movement type. So fixed movement versus not fixed movement. So not fixed just simply means that you can go left and right, forward and backwards, whatever direction you want. Fixed movement means you can only go forward and back in a perfect line. Now that could be useful if you were defending, say, like a wall in PvP. That way you're not, turning improperly to not line up your shots well. Last but certainly not least, we have the Sinomacrops, which is another shoulder mount. To be honest, this guy is simply just adorable. Look at this little thing. So, you can find these guys everywhere in the jungle biome. Prep for taming is pretty simple. You're going to need chitin and preferably a decently fast flyer to follow it around. Something to keep in mind, make sure you are wearing no chitin armor because these guys go absolutely berserk for it. They will kill you super fast. Process is pretty simple. Find yourself your prey, passive feed it. So what I would recommend doing, make use of your menu, tab over to your taming bar. You can click here, track it, and this way you can keep track of your prey. Now I'm just going to admin fly around, but you guys, this is why you're going to want your flyer to keep track of this guy. So when he lands, just check to see if he's ready for the feeding, and eventually you'll have yourself a tamed Sinomacrops. Honestly, I think the Sinomacrops has amazing utility. Essentially, this shoulder pet replaces gliders, parachutes, but it comes with some extra perks. So first off, let's talk about its flight capabilities. So again, we're talking Xbox here. So if we're going to go here to an edge of a cliff, I can hold A to fly. So it has a limited flight. Oh, sorry, that's admin flying. Let's not do that. There we go. So it can hover in place, but if you continue holding down A, it'll actually fly. Now it's using stamina to do this, so keep that in mind. You can see its stamina bar on the top right above mine. I do recommend you putting some points into stamina, that way you can use this guy for much longer. Now for its gliding ability, when you jump off a cliff, you can hit right stick. This will put you into a stable horizontal glide. So you're barely falling when you're in this mode. You can click left stick, and if you look down, you will dive. You can hit left stick again, and it will put you back into that stable glide. You can keep alternating as you'd like. Just click it again when you want to go horizontal. Click it again when you want to dive. This is very handy, very useful, especially if your base is up somewhere high. You can get pretty far on these maps. Alright, the Sinomacrops also has a scream ability, which most of you have seen in the trailer. So if we hold X, it's going to bring up a radio menu here. You can see a couple things. We can enable auto scream, or we could just do a scream right now. So if we do a manual scream, we double clap, it screams. If there was anything small predator nearby, so anything up to hyenodon size, it will cause them to flee. Now something to keep in mind, there's actually a 60-second cooldown on this ability. So do keep that in mind. You can't just spam it. Personally, I believe that Auto Scream is going to be your best ally for this. We can use that here. I'll show you a couple different things. Alright, so I have a scream available now in 2 seconds. So let's go and find ourselves some predators here. Oh, and actually, we got lucky. So this detected some leeches coming at us from the water here, and it just auto-killed it. So something pretty cool to keep in mind. These are considered chitin creatures. Same thing with the Titan Minora, the ants. So if we have a scream available, which we will here in a few seconds, we'll jump ahead just to show you again. And there it goes. It just killed these ants over here. So again, my closing thoughts and pro tips on these guys. Again, put several levels into stamina. That way you can fly and glide without really having to worry about dying. Second off, you guys basically can throw out your gliders and parachutes. These guys are an upgrade in every single way possible. The gliders used to have the durability problems. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Third, the scream. It's very effective for like keeping your Ichthyornis, that's the seagulls or Pegomastics, from stealing your stuff. You can also use them to help keep Microraptors from dismounting you on your tames. The other thing to think about too, the scream can affect dinos up to Hyenodon size. So, you know, a lot of your mid-small predators, especially early in the game, this guy's pretty nice, especially considering how easy he is to tame. Overall, I think the Sinomacrops is my personal favorite of the bunch. Its utility, it's fantastic, pretty easy to tame, and it's cute as hell. I know we threw a lot of information at you guys today. You can see our timestamps in the video if you need to rewatch any sections. Be sure to check out our Discord page for anybody who happened to find this. We're going to have some giveaways this time around in our Discord. For our player base, I'm giving out one breeding pair per tribe of each of the new creatures. This will get you guys started for mutation breeding. You can pick them up at the normal spot, our base on Genesis 2, that's 63.7, 61.1. You could also use a teleporter if you have one, or just fly to our spot. Lastly, please show your love and support. Hit that like and subscribe button. You'll see us around in the next video.